Si Mustafa Murshid, hello, my friend. I hope you are doing well. Thank you very much for always being here on time. This only shows how much of a faithful follower and a faithful friend of the channel and of my person you are. Thank you very much. I think I need to bring this here just for decoration at least. Let's see Mohammed Boughni. No, hello. You are the second. Natalie, hello Natalie. I hope you are doing well. See Mohammed, I hope you are doing well. واش كاين شي شتا في مكناس ولا والو here we have it has been raining for a good while, and it's really nice to to see that it has rained, and it's windy, so الله يرحمنا as we say. Okay, nice. اهلا استاذ رحالي. سي قريح محمد, السلام عليكم and thank you for joining. فدوى, اهلا وسهلا فدوى. Hello. Well, my friends, I would like to request that you share this as widely as you can. اهلا سي محمد, من زكين سي محمد, لاباس دارك سي لك راهم زارغين. Okay, let us know because I know that you are around Casablanca, so let me know. Okay, my friends, I have to take a little while. أهلا فايزة, ما مشتي فايزة مليح. ذي شو منزاني زانيتينك الحمد لله. All right, thank you. So let me please take a little while to share this, and I request that you do the same. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. So share to the different platforms and to the different groups, so that this, because we're discussing an issue that I think is very important, not only for teachers, beginning teachers specifically, but also for those students who have this goal of becoming a teacher one day. There are a number of issues that reflect my probably experience with teaching for a number of years. I hope I will be able to share with you my reactions, my reflections. Of course, this is going to be very interactive. أهلا أستاذ زين, أهلا وسهلا. I hope you are doing well. I hope the kids are doing well as well. Thank you so much for joining. سي محمد إلا شو منزادي عربات ولا غدا ينزع نهاري خصو منزع زي كنا الشات من بعد يتبدا دونك كنزير مغابر تشوف خصو منزع الحمد لله. Thank you, سي بوكنيفي. فايزة says لا والو هذا بونزا. يسطا منزع هاني كنديو. يوا إن شاء الله الله يرحمنا as we say in Morocco. All right, good. So let me take some time, please. Your help is highly desirable in this case. Sinafia, أهلا وسهلا Sinafia. How are you? I'm happy that you are with us. Thank you. It's a pleasure. Okay, so take some time, please. Gary Mohammed, موجود أنظار ياك. ذاني أنظار الطاس. Well, okay, that's really, we have a multilingual group here. We have Tashlihit, Tarifit, Moroccan Arabic, and we probably have Tamaziq, Mayan Atlas. I don't know whether we have French and other languages. I don't know. But this is really nice. It's multilingual, and this is what is attractive about Morocco. What is good about our country, something that we need to be proud of, is this plurality and this multilingualism in which we are celebrating it. In fact, it's really interesting, and I wish every single Moroccan could learn Moroccan Arabic, and at least one variety. The Moroccan Arabic native speakers need to learn at least. It's desirable. That's my hope, is to see that many people are becoming open to Tamazight. Of course, there has been the Amazigh language has been worked on in terms of its standardization, in terms of its introduction or implementation in the Moroccan educational system. There have been, this has been successful to a very large extent. Of course, there are certain challenges, but the attempt needs enough time. Ali Nawal, how are you, Nawal? I hope you are doing well. Thank you very much. So I'll take some time to share the link in the different platforms that I have here. And then I'll come back to you with maybe the first point. Exceptionally today, I may not respond to the different messages here, different requests and different questions. until after we cover the main point of the present, live session. Thank you very much. We are 20 people, so this is a record compared to previous live sessions, presumably because the topic is one in which so many people would be interested. Okay, so I am sharing the live session here on your academic companion and then in the different groups that I have here. This one, this one. Si Mustafa must have shared. I'm sure you have shared this as well with the people you know, and so did so many of you. I'm really grateful to that. Actually, this is exactly what will keep us motivated, especially that today we're talking about the issue of motivation. So motivation is everything. It makes us do miracles. Absent motivation, absent everything else. You see? Okay, nice. So let's. So I just try to put this in the different platforms, and then I'll come back to you, dear friends. I need to share it also on WhatsApp, perhaps. Some will decline it, others will not. You see, some decline it, some groups of certain universities decline it for a reason. So there is a big question mark. I just don't want to interpret things very quickly, but I got some signs that some students are told not to do so, you know, but it boils down to the same thing anyway. So as long as I have 20 people here, that's enough. Okay, my friends. So let me share it on my personal Facebook page, and then we will start. Alors, voilà, this is it. So share my groups first. Voilà. And then WhatsApp. Have I? I'm sorry. I think I have the wrong thumbnail there. I think I noticed the wrong thumbnail here. No. Never mind. You know, there's a picture that I'll change it, so we can carry on like this. No problem. Alors, so I need now this LinkedIn, and then we will start directly. Share post, and then we move. Thank you very much. Thank you. So Asma, hello. Asma, I hope you're doing well. Thank you. Alan Latimad, how are you? I hope you're doing well. Si Ahmed, hello. Nouni Nunus, good evening. Thank you for joining everyone here. I'm grateful to everyone here. Motivation does miracles. I cannot agree more, Natalie. Okay. Ahlan Si Saeed, I hope you're doing well. Thank you. It's a very interesting subject for a number of reasons. That's true. Now, well, Sirashid says, good evening, Professor. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sirashid. I don't know, Rashid, what? I don't know where, because I remember one student, diligent student by this name, but I need a family name to confirm that it was you. Okay, sorry. Now I guess we need to start addressing the some of the questions. I've just been, you know, I've jotted down a few questions here that are actually questions that spring from my experience over a number of years. I started teaching maybe in 2001 at a higher education private institution, and then I started my doctorate, and then I moved on to a research center, and then I am about to start my 17th year at the faculty. And during this period, of course, I have had occasion to teach at a number of institutions. Of course, it's not just one institution. I have gathered that there are a number of problems that we believe are problems, that we take to be problems. They are problems actually, but rather than blaming these problems on the students, it would appear, or it appears, that there is something that needs to be done so that students have enough motivation that keeps them going and that keeps them, engaged. There are a number of signs of what we call lethargy, or you see procrastination and quote unquote laziness. But all these are in the absence of this big concept known as motivation. Now, I have a few questions to which I try to find an answer. Okay. Okay, see Mohammed. All right. See Mohammed Bouisan. Yeah, I'll mention this in passing, and then if you feel that I have not addressed this directly, or if I have paid only lip service to the concept, then I would very much appreciate if you could, paste the question again so I can reflect on it. Thank you so much. See, if you just go on, dear professor, there are so many opportunists who use other students blackmail. Well, anyway, to each his own. And I can call parce que, anyway, there are certain things that I would like to withhold. Fine, I would like to withhold. Okay, right. Thank you. So, question number one. Why is it that despite all the effort, despite all the endeavor, the output is generally, I'm talking about, there are always exceptional students, there are always outstanding students, of course, there are always high achievers. I'm not generalizing. I will not deny the fact that there are really outstanding, students who have managed to to get a good grasp of the content and a good mastery of the language. So I'm not talking about these, but of course, we know that that a large number of students, seem to lack in the required knowledge, both at the level of content and at the level of language. Of course, after they have the diploma at hand. So if what we can't normally understand is to have to get in contact with someone with a diploma, for example, with a BA in English, but with a marked inability to express himself or herself without so many mistakes. I mean, they can express themselves orally, no problem, but that's not what the diploma, that specific diploma is for. You see, nor do they know anything, not anything, but they know hardly anything about the topics and the discipline in which they are supposed to be specialized. My question is, why is it that so many students, are like this? That's number one. And when it comes to written English, it's a fiasco. So many students fail, or degree holders. And this is really ironic. And it's a waste of time, a waste of money, a waste of effort. You see, why is it, I always tell my students, and some of them I probably hear, I always tell them that the fact that you are at the English department, you see, will not be marked by your imitation of a native speaker's accent. No, you could have, done so. You could have learned English at a center, and that's fine. If you are here for 6 semesters with all the courses and all the, the daily commuting, daily trips to the university, and all the tasks that you are involved in. You see, all this. Finally, the result is much like, is that you use English much like someone who has just studied for a few months at the center and who has been watching, series. And that's ironic. I mean, and this is deplorable because, as I said, the state is spending money on education, and it pays teachers, and the students' parents work hard. We should not deny this fact. There are parents who wake up at dawn just because their son or daughter has to go to university, and they keep them in their prayers, and they follow their forwarding steps on a daily basis. Otherwise, if not on an hourly basis, and all this is to have a diploma where you neither express yourself in correct written English, for example, nor displaying or demonstrating enough knowledge in the area in which you are supposed to be a specialist. Isn't this ironic? The answer is yes, it is. Okay, that's question number one. It's why is it that the output leaves much to be desired. You see, in other words, it's not up to our expectations as teachers and as stakeholders in the field of education. That's number one. Number two, why is it that so many students are not or do not seem to be appreciative of their experience as learners, their life as students? So many of them, for example, believe or think that the teacher is there, maybe I will not say enemy, but it's like a foe, like okay, and it's like a teacher is there just to penalize you, and teacher is someone who rejoices at seeing you suffering. We have these ideas, I mean, among students. We have them just like that. So why is this the case? Why is this the case? Okay. And many students, display negative attitudes towards the classroom, towards the teacher, towards probably also some of them, I don't know. I observed that, over the years, that on occasions there is always that student, probably who has a job somewhere, who always comes, and does not join the group. He keeps, as we say in English, as they say in English, he keeps aloof. He keeps aloof in the corner, just like that, and that really shows some sort of negative attitude. They do not, some of them do not participate. So why is it that less to that's question three? Because these questions are like a chain. Why is it that they do not they withhold their participation in discussions? They don't contribute, and they seem to undergo a silent period, but it's not a natural silent period. We have that feeling. It's as though so many students are there only because there is an exam that follows them, which is natural, which is to be understood, yes. Therefore, they just pick and choose, between the whole gamut of information, only to suit the exam purposes. Of course, they are not to blame in this regard. But being at the university requires that, one has to be involved in communication, in discussion, in class, etc., because these skills are also as important as is content and as is language. Okay, communication, how to open a discussion, how to apologize, how to interrupt, all these. Even if your students may learn them in certain courses, but if you apply them in the class with your teacher and with students, this is really nice. Okay, so that's my point. Why is it that so many students participate, less and less, or why there is this level of participation that is getting very low in the classroom? Okay. Question number four. One, two, three. This is the fourth question. And by the way, these come from my proper experience. Whether you share them, you have noticed the same thing or not, I probably need to see that in comments. Now, why is it that so many students when they are assigned a task, for example, when you say that you need to submit this essay, for example, next week, you see, either they submit something that is, you see, artificial intelligence based, and you can easily recognize that, by the way, and they believe that they have, you see, cajoled you into correcting something that you take to be theirs, which is totally the case. There is hardly any teacher who can fail to detect that something is ChatGPT based. Okay, so that's a big problem here. And before ChatGPT, there was Google. We used to call it hash Google. you know, now the term is falling, is becoming obsolete in favor of ChatGPT. I don't know what title people will give it later on, but hash Google was an appellation that was so common. Okay, all right. Sorry for the sip. Anyway, so either they submit a piece of work that is not theirs for obvious reasons, the belief being that they have done, they have satisfied the professor's, urge to do this homework. Okay, and of course, this has nefarious pedagogical consequences. This has consequences on achievement. This has long-term consequences that students generally do not realize. And that's the catastrophe. And that's what is actually deplorable. There is also a group of students who submit a task, which is not ChatGPT based, but it's their task. بالحق, it's their task. It's not a homework. Some students, you can easily read this. Some students do the task on their way to the university, so that the teacher will not shout or will not react or will not, you see. So I always tell my students I need a homework, not a tram work, not an under the tree work, not a cafeteria work. You see, so people do not seem to take time to work on their tasks. Why? Because they believe that what is important in this is the submission, is what you submit, is the fact of submitting. Okay? Of course, they ignore the fact that a piece of work is to a large extent a learning opportunity. See? Let me give you a concrete example. I'm not saying that I solved the problem, but I tried it with a group of students in composition, for example, in advanced composition at the level of S3. I had this is what I do when I teach something related to writing, like paragraph writing or composition or whatever. On a weekly basis, they have to submit something. Not typed, but handwritten. Why handwritten? Because I always tell them that you have to train yourselves on holding the pen, because students nowadays are holding the pen and using the pen less and less. So how come that you give all the assignments, typed on your computer, and on the day of the exam you take the pen? Of course, you will be late. You will suffer. You will have your palm sweating, and you will always, move your hand like this in indication of the fact that you are tired, and so on and so forth. I always sensitize my students to this. But so what I do, what I have done so far, and this, I think I have some students here who can disconfirm this if I am wrong. All right. When you work on them on a weekly basis, and those who do the work at home, those who take enough time to do the work, you give them feedback, and then they try to avoid the mistakes of this week in their next essay, and it goes like that until they manage to produce very good essays towards the end of the semester. Okay, thank you, Siham. I think that's a confirmation, because she was one of the students in my composition class. All right, fine. So this is what I look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Believe it or not, there were students who submitted their pieces of writing in something like this. It's not actually like this, but there is this There are signs that the paper was scrambled somewhere. I think that they reached out for a piece of paper and they stretch it like that and they, although this is not actually the topic that we are discussing, but this is related to the questions that I have listed here. To say nothing of those, you see, students who submit or tear out or tear a piece of paper from a calendar. And you see, for example, January the 3rd, I don't know. Or sometimes, and it happened to me, a specialist in gynecologist or whatever, a doctor. And they write an essay on that. You see, one day, I think it was in 2013, I even got a paper where there is, I'm sorry to say this, but it was a cement factory. That's the header. It's a cement factory. Okay, this is really funny sometimes. Okay. And of course, this connects to the fact that many students miss classes. They do not attend on a regular basis. Why is it the case? Why is it the case? Okay, is it natural to have a student, for example, at the university, and for no obvious reason, okay, they just think that it's not interesting. Later on, they will go and check with the notes of their friends. But my friend, you are at the university, even if you know the points given to you by your friend, and you manage to answer the questions on the day of the exam, and you manage to validate all the modules, does this mean that that you have acquired the necessary knowledge, the necessary skills, the necessary linguistic ability to face the world after? No, no, of course not. See? Okay. Why is it that so many times there are students in the classroom, who keep, daydreaming? They are there physically, they are listening to you, but their mind travels to different places, to different times, probably to different, I don't know, episodes. And so this is not normal as well, because the student in the class has, of course, or is there only to acquire some knowledge, and he or she has to concentrate. Okay, he or she has to concentrate. Of course, there are students who suffer from stress, who are all the time stressed, and this connects, of course, to the fact that many of them have insomnia. We should not forget this. They are insomniac because they don't sleep at night. Is it because of the devices that they have that they keep at hand until late in the evening or late at night? Well, some of them, yes, some of them have this problem. So all these problems that I have talked about in the form of questions will be reflected on, all right, in this specific, you see, I have jotted down, just some of the headings. Okay, I think this is much related to the concepts of inspiration and motivation. So what is it, or what is it that we need to do to inspire students? What does it mean that we inspire students? What is inspiration? What does it mean? Okay, before I delve into these points, I need to take some time to read some of the comments that our friends here have generously placed. So, okay, Si Mohammed Bouissen, paste the comment again later on, please. Your question, what you did isn't just about sharing knowledge, you provide interest and desire to learn. This is, I don't know if Natalie is talking about my person, but this is the thing, it's not enough to impart knowledge, but you need to find a way. And I have to talk about this on a piecemeal basis, or in a piecemeal fashion, bit by bit, because I have, listed some of the points there that I need to go back to and reflect on. Ustad Darin, ahlan wa sahlan. Thank you very much. Thank you. I hope you are doing well too. Barakallahu fik, Ustad Darin. Si Mohammed Zarq, hello, Professor. Hello, Si Mohammed. Thank you for making it again to our live session. Thank you. Thank you, Sir Uthman Boukhzar. Afakum, while I read, you hit the like button. Hit the like button. It's 25 against 15. That's not normal. See, that's not fair. Ustad Straji says, Yalla, hit the like button, my dear friends. Okay, Ustad Straji says most students are conscious about the importance of reading to enhance their level of English, but they are reluctant to do it by saying that their schedules are overloaded. Of course, they will never tell you that they are wrong and that they will always find an excuse or two, to skip or to avoid, tasks like reading tasks. But here I will specifically talk about the role of the teacher here. So in this live session, the main point actually is not about blaming the students. I just try to expose some of the characteristics of some of the students at different institutions, but of course, the entire responsibility falls, I dare say, not the entire, but much of the responsibility, okay, falls on the shoulders of the teacher, because this will all depend on how what happens in the classroom. You see, so we'll see these things, and then we will react to them. We'll discuss them, of course. Okay. Yeah. Okay. See, Gary, most of the university students study just to pass exams. That's not healthy at all. See, Gary Mohammed, I agree with you. I wouldn't say most, but there are students like that. Okay, and this is not good. The consequence of this is that when they want to further their studies, to pursue their studies, for example, in a master's program, for example, of course, there is always this placement test. And if you cannot produce a correctly written paragraph or an accurately written paragraph, and if you cannot answer basic questions about the domain or the field in which you are supposed to be, a specialist, then of course this is the consequence of studying just for the exam. Okay. Much is learned in classroom discussions when you ask the teacher, when you interact both with the professor and also with the students. Okay. Si Mohammed Zarq says, regardless of the level, education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned at school, of course. So there's these good habits, good habits. If you have learned good habits, good academic habits, nothing will be forgotten, believe me. Okay. You see, maybe you can forget certain details that you have covered and that you have never used, for example. But when you acquire good habits, you keep on, you keep moving. Simhadi Bini says, hello, dear professor. Do you think integrating social media into academic activities could be beneficial for writing enhancement? Are there strategies you can use to help students improve their writing? Thank you very much, Simhadi. Yes, of course, no one can deny the fact that technology has come to facilitate life, and it has facilitated life in a number of respects. Proof of this is that your academic companion is addressing you via this platform and via Facebook. So social media, whether we like it or not, needs to be seized as an opportunity rather than looking at it as as a distraction, as something that is just a waste of time. And it's not a luxury. In the 21st century, a 21st century student has to have a good command of the different platforms of he or she has to they need to be introduced to artificial intelligence, and they have to be up to par with the other students at the international level, of course. Therefore, using platforms like social media is very good. I mean, not very good. It's not only very good, but fundamental, but necessary. You see, well, there are a lot of things that we can learn from the machine, from the platform, and academic life has become a lot easier thanks to these, social media. And of course, but this requires the teacher to engineer activities that are relevant in the relevant platforms, of course. And if it's done the right way, then of course the consequences will be just good. It would be very beneficial to a large extent, of course. Okay, but sometimes this it's a two-edged sword, actually, because there are people who misuse social media. or technology. Let's say technology. For example, if I believe that technology will help me, for example, teach comfortably, yes, it will help me teach comfortably. But does this mean that I will be teaching through slides all the session? That's technology, but that's not a good way of using it. So it all depends on the way you use it. How do you want to motivate students if you are seated comfortably in a chair and taking the remote controller, slide one, slide two, slide three, slide four, as they say, bye bye. That's not a good thing. Of course, the student will not be motivated. The student will have the feeling that they can do what you are doing as a teacher. Yes or no? So my belief is that yes, you can use slides. Nice, this is good, a good habit, to use slides. But slides may be where you have your keywords, but you always need this. Where is it? Had. This is it. This is it. You need this. And you need somebody who will go and come. You see? Like a lion in a cage. Okay? Go in and come in. Sometimes these movements, what the student told me, a master's student, when I started this channel. I liked this. I don't know what. But look, after I uploaded maybe 2 or 3 videos, the student came to me and say, "Sir, please, when you record your videos, do exactly as you do in the classroom, move and try to use gestures, and that's how we find it interesting." Okay, so I sensed that this student, and of course a number of students, and if you have them, we have some students here, they can confirm or disconfirm this idea of relying. I'm not just talking about higher education, but this may happen also at the level of high school. Okay, so that's misuse of technology. Just relying on slides, the students will not be motivated. Actually, because they will be asking you for copies of the slides, and then they will go. That's one thing. That's one misuse. Okay, of technology. The other misuse, you know it. For example, let's face the fact. Direct. Okay, but this is based on the things I have heard from many students, actually. You see. Now, just imagine you have a course where you are assigned readings like novels, for example. You see. Novels. Many students take the novel and either look for the audiobook version, and I heard this and I actually laughed, believe it or not, they look for films based on that novel. Convince me that the student will have a good body of knowledge about vocabulary and about structure. How can you master English when you do it this way? So this is one of the aspects that need to be reconsidered. This is one of the uses of technology that need to be reconsidered, actually. And of course, the student is not helping himself or herself when they look for critics, and summaries and audiobooks. Audiobook. You know what an audiobook amounts to. When you have, the headphones, the pods, you can, instead of reading the novel the way I am seated and with a cup of coffee and with some music, and you start underlining words and maybe burning the midnight oil, as they say, reading the novel and discovering about language and enjoying doing this, you end up maybe falling asleep and maybe covered in a blanket, and you are preparing for the exam. See? This is a possible scenario. Some students may do that. Some students may do that as they are involved in another activity. So this is not really good. Okay, so technology, that's Sim Ibn Nis who is asking, who asks this very important question relating to technology and the way it can have, consequences. Technology has very good consequences on it has a very surely, and research has proven that. It has made life a lot easier. But this is contingent on the fact that You see, people make good use of it. You see, I can give you this phone, for example. If you make good use of it, you may use it for phone calls, for maybe recording videos, for taking pictures, but you may also use it to hit someone on the head. Okay, so it depends on the use that we can make of these platforms. Okay, and I think that if there is any research involved here, I would love to see research relating to the correlation between the use of technology and students' motivation and also students' outcome. Okay, students' learning outcome. Thank you, Si Mahdi, for asking this very important question. Si Mohammed Bouknifi says, Natalie, the teacher should provide comprehensible input in appropriate context that keep pace with the generation expectation. Otherwise, the session will be deadly boring. I am afraid I have not read Natalie's comment to which you have reacted, Si Mohammed. But if there is an exchange between you and Natalie, that's very nice. It's good to to interact with each other. Also, thank you very much, Si Mohammed. Siham says you are right. I don't know right in terms of what. Okay, I don't know. I may have said something to which you have replied. Okay, Simoshi to learns. No, before we have a wealth of comments here, which is nice. Look, whole paragraphs are written here. Natalie, yes, Mr. Bouknifi, comprehensible input is necessary, so that's very interesting. Thank you, Natalie, for interacting with Si Mohammed. Mustafa, ancient times, old times, ancient times. I always refer to them as ancient times. Also, successful improvement of reading depends on eagerness to improve and the willingness to practice. Actually, if reading is looked at as an arduous task and as something that makes you very tired, that's something that is just useless, and at the same time it's a burden, people will not read at all. And also, if people grow up in an environment where reading is not the norm, it's really hard. But the habit of reading develops, of course. We enjoy reading by continuously, reading. There are people who cannot be in a cafe, for example, without having something they read. You see, so it becomes a daily habit, and this is a very good habit, by the way. See, Mustafa is saying, he is right, has written, tell me, I forget, teach me, and I may remember, and involve me, and I will learn. That's said by Benjamin Franklin, that's for sure. And this points to the fact that involving students and making life, school life, university life, whatever, meaningful is, of paramount importance as far as achievement is concerned. Okay, so maybe I'll have to go over these very quickly. Nowadays, TEFL must be associated with integrating ICT in the process. Technology generation, tech generation, we refer to them as digital natives, will never get engaged by lecturing or dictating. Well, Si Mohammed, but this depends. The proviso is that teachers need to be to use it in the right way. That's all. Otherwise, I fully agree with you. That's true. Okay, Si Mustafa, Ahlan, Si Mustafa Walaf. Si Mustafa Walaf, you may have things to say in this on this topic today, because you are an inspector and he's a high school supervisor, and Si Mustafa is about to defend his doctorate. I wish you all the best, dear Mustafa. Thank you very much. Si Mohammed Bouknifi, by the way, I very much like the idiomatic language you use in your live sessions. So many idioms every day. Okay, thank you. Sometimes they come just like that naturally. I don't intend to use them. They are part of the way I express. This is the way I express myself. Oftentimes, I realize that I forgot the S, or but that's normal because this is very spontaneous. I don't prepare for these live sessions at all. All that I do is go to a cafe nearby and jot down some of the points that I will talk about, and I come. Sometimes I find myself, going through the whole live session without looking at what has been prepared. Okay? and someone will come and ironically and cynically, I don't know, will tell me سي أمروز كيفاش كتلقى الوقت لهذا الشيء. And my answer, I enjoy telling this again, to tell you this again, is that I spend it takes me as much time as it takes you to move from one private school to another. Okay, so I just close the bracket here. Okay, see Mohammed Zarq, the learning process is partly effective. If effective, yes, it's effective. It's to a large extent, see Mohammed Zarq. And I fully agree with you. If you remove the effective side, learning will become mechanical and the outcome is just something that leaves much to be desired. Okay, so thank you. Yeah, this is what explains the difference between students' motivation towards learning. Some students tend to be more industrious than others. That's true. We'll come to these distinctions between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, instrumental and integrative motivation. Thank you very much, Si Mohammed Zarq, for this interesting contribution. Morshid, I can't agree more. Si Mohammed, next time you should be the first one to say hi. Galak, you can't agree more. Thank you, Si Mohammed. Ustad Siraji, I provided them with some novels of mine to encourage them to read, but in vain. Yeah, it's too much. Maybe in the context where you are, Ustad Darim, you will probably need to assign them little things to read. Fewer pages, not really a novel. Especially if they have this attitude that they are not there primarily for English. Some of them have that, of course. Or sometimes they may have this attitude that as long as I can communicate in English, as long as I can phone someone, a native speaker, and talk to him or her, then I don't need any novel whatsoever. Of course, needs to be some work on attitude, of course. Okay. You and our colleague, we did. I think it's you are a very good team there. Nice. Natalie, yes, social media has positive side. It allows us to attend your interesting lectures. Barakallahu fik, Natalie. Thank you. See, Madibnis, there are educators. Look at it as stigma instead of making use of it. You mean social media? Yeah, that's true. That's true. They look at it as a stigma, and I can't agree more. But I think that this attitude is now shrinking in favor of an attitude that is pro social media. I always have this reservation, and I do not shy away from telling people, students, for example, or colleagues expressly that that social media need to be used with care, carefully, to be handled with care, because it can have the reverse effect. You see? So it's not something that is a total alternative. There is this approach that has flourished, in the scene, which relates to the concept of flipped classrooms. I find this very interesting because in flipped classroom situation, the teacher has enough control of the learning process. You see, but this one is good. All right, nice. Si Mustafa, it says today's learners are digital natives. Sorry, I have missed a very important comment, I guess, by our friend Si Abdenbi Ben Abu. Are there any socioeconomic reasons for the low engagement and motivation of today's learners? Si Abdenbi, أنا can نقول no. You know why? And I say no. I say no because there are success stories of people who lived, in a wretched, you know what wretched is? A destitute, probably, they led the life of very poor, people. There were people at times, in the ancient times, as Si Murshid said, in the 70s, in the 80s, no, but the 70s, 60s, there were people in the countryside, and I know so many of them, by the way. Myself being someone who comes from the countryside, and I say that loudly and proudly, no problem with that. I was born and brought up in the countryside. You see, And but I was lucky enough, maybe, to be born in a family that was not rich, was not rich, but not with that poverty. Was not poor actually, but was somehow. But I know people who could not find even the shoes to wear. Believe me, and they became doctors, they became lawyers, engineers. And with parents who are total illiterates. And I'm not exaggerating if I say that the whole, neighborhood, you know, uh, consists of illiterate. I remember in the 80s, I remember people were sending letters from Europe, the immigrants, they were sending letters to their sons and daughters, to their families to ask about them, etc., because there was no phone, there was no one to read a letter written in Arabic. They mostly, they would go to take it to the fqih of the mosque, and the fqih would explain what is written in the letter. This, Si Abdel this encourages me to say, I don't think so. I doubt whether this has to do with also, and I taught students who were very poor, and very poor, and many of them, told me, in private, of course, in the workplace, that they could not find even, the money to pay the photocopy. And now where are they? Very high positions. So I don't think that this is the case. I think motivation will preponderate over all these things. You see, if you have conversely, by the way, Siab, conversely, there are people who are born to families that are affluent. You see, families with many students have a private car, and they have, they have never suffered lack of money. They always have money. They have what they want, and yet they have not been able to make it academically. You see, okay, so I don't think that, given the examples I have now, all right, nice. But of course, maybe if there is a piece of research that will find out, and maybe this is different now, maybe the previous generation is not today's generation. So if I know a family, they are somehow distant family members, uh, whose father led the poor life, and towards the end, he has, I guess, one, two, I think three doctors, plus two university professors, and an engineer. You see, they lived in the countryside where there was no light, there was no, it was just the well. If you want water, you have to go and bring it from the well, and the roads were not paved, and, and you can guess, okay. And despite that, people have managed to help their sons and daughters to achieve, to achieve their goals. All right, nice. Si Mustafa says, today's learners are digital natives. Those people who are not familiar with technology should be digital immigrants in order not to be lagged behind. I think this is getting, the divide now is getting less and less, pronounced, you see. And now I think even not I think, it's observed that the old generation now are having their hands, in technology, because they are forced to anyway. Natalie, yes, that's true, she said. Natalie says using the blackboard is the best way to teach. I just like that. On occasions, I use slides, but I use them only for certain purposes, like when I teach, for example, SPSS, and sometimes I have this, but it's really, it's rare, honestly. Well, maybe there's something wrong with me, but relying on slides is something I am against, because it deprives the teacher of being dynamic in class, of interacting with students. Okay, Anyway, that remains a personal opinion, okay? Now, well, yes, a teacher can use slides, but just yeah, with hints inside. That's true. And if you give, whole text, I saw that specifically in presentations, in conferences. Some of them just take a text from a Word document and they paste it in the slide. And while they read, it's like they read for themselves because nobody listens to them. So I think Noel is right when she talks about hints here. That's true. Natalie, nothing can replace the pleasure we get when we read the book instead of using the PDF. I firmly agree. And I firmly agree specifically in regard to the dictionary. It's just a hunch. I have not based this on any research, but it's a hunch. I firmly believe, that's a personal belief. I firmly believe that when you have a paper dictionary, a book, a physical dictionary, a big one, English, you will do miracles in terms of the acquisition of vocabulary and other expressions. You achieve proficiency like that. I don't know. Is it just a feeling? Is it just again? This is worthy of a piece of research as well. All right. Thanks. Sinafia says, I was introduced to syntax with Prof. in Nasiri in Titwan. He was just as you say, he never used slides. It was just a marker. The board, I wish time goes back to it. And look at how he talks about his professor, Sinafia. You see, look at how he talks about his professor. If he has learned, syntax, quote unquote, the traditional way with his professor, then what added value would slides have given? Okay, so this will depend on the style of the teacher, on the way he or she goes about delivering the content, rather than probably the presence or absence of technology. Technology is an aid. Technology is something that can enhance probably the experience, but relying on it throughout the sessions may not be a good idea. May not, I say, because that remains an opinion. Well, I think there is something. I think we have twisted the topic towards the discussion of social media, but I think that these issues of social media, motivation, anxiety, attitude are inextricable. You see, especially when it comes to the 21st century student. Scholars, Mustafa says, but let me see if there are. I think I missed something here. All right. Sigareh Mohammed says, as a high school teacher, I started over to give students the opportunity to develop knowledge and skills through engaging projects that are related to the real. Oh, that's perfect. That's really nice. I have a point here relating to this actually. So I think you are doing good. It's going to work, of course. They will enjoy what they are doing. And of course, the impact will be long-term. Mr. Gareh Mohammed. Simon Buknifi is talking to Simorshid about the lockdown, perhaps. See, Benis, I have research related to this subject. That's why I need your insights as an experienced educator. Well, if you have, for example, an interview plan, or if you have a questionnaire, I would be very glad to respond to it and to talk about probably my experience and what I know about the topic. I wish you all the best, Simadi. Good luck to you. I was taught by Muhammad Kabir, Allah yarhamu. He never used PowerPoint, and we learned a lot from him. So yeah, these examples prove that it never occurred to me to use that in my syntax class as well. But finally, I found out that many of my students know about movement, know about why movements take place, know about you see. Well, otherwise, this may be course specific because they teach in tree diagrams and, these require the board. All right. Thank you, Mustafa. You are right about practicing composition in S3. You are a good, we say you are a living and breathing example. Sihan, right? Yeah, because I saw how you started and how you finished. I don't say that I was behind that, but it's thanks to your endeavor, thanks to your engagement. You and two or three more classmates, this is you achieved a lot, and I am very happy that you have moved from one level to another. Thank you, Ustad Arim. لا, it's about style. Anas, you see, one day I received an anonymous email after maybe the second or the third session in syntax. And the anonymous email said, Sir, I see that you are moving a lot when you teach us the tree diagrams, and you are moving a lot. And that's perhaps for some students, that's not probably the right way. Haka, anonymous. But my, my answer the week after was that how do you want me not to move with what I teach is movement. So I was in syntax. In a syntax class, I teach movement. So I have to show you where movement comes, how movement operations take place. Of course, I say that it was a joke, but sometimes we don't feel it. Sometimes we move a lot. Sometimes we gesticulate a lot. I may have that. I don't know, but my students have to judge me. They never said anything about that. All right, never mind. Thank you very much, Ustad Astaraji. Thank you. Mustafa Morshid scholars used to talk about the death of the author and the death of the native speaker. I heard a professor talking about the possibility of the death of their teacher in today's day. I don't think so, Si Mustafa. I don't think so. I have this feeling that the teacher will never be replaced. Wallahu alam. I don't know. There is always that thing. Perhaps many of the teacher's tasks will be will be delegated to machines, to softwares. But the role of the teacher will always will remain unscathed, as they say. Okay, Si Hamid says, this social media is a double-edged sword. Learners are getting distracted by these digital devices and therefore losing motivation, concentration. Yes, it can be one pole or the other pole. Technology can either hone your motivation, can either sharpen it, or they can make it blunt and they can thwart any attempt to to display motivation or motivational behavior. So it's really, here the bottom line is this will depend on the use people make of these social media. That's the thing. All right. Si Ahmed says social media. Yeah, Si Ahmed, I think losing motivation. Yeah, I think so. I have reacted to that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ustad Siraji. Si Said says one thing I want to add is that many students today think cheating in exams is okay. Ramashi, it's okay. Many of them think that cheating in exams is an achievement, is an exploit that they celebrate in one way or another. When I was proctoring an exam, I caught some students cheating and they described me as a backward and primitive. Yeah, that's the thing. It's a pity. It's a real pity that we have this mindset among students. If you want to be a modern and up-to-date citizen, then you have to allow them to cheat. You see, so I hope you stopped the student and wrote a report showing this cheating behavior, because that's what needs to be done normally. Okay, see Mustafa. Yeah, I think you reacted to something I said about poverty before. See Mohammed Bouknifi, what a coincidence, Mr. Walaf Mustafa was my colleague in Qasr Kbir. Yeah, he comes from the city, yes. We taught in the same high school. Oh, that's really nice. That's really nice. Okay, that's good to hear. So I have two friends who have met again on this platform. It's really nice. And by the way, so he is going to defend at the same institution. So you are, I think, roughly, at the same, stage. Okay. See, Mohammed, Mr. Nafia, Prof, one of my most professors, I had my university life. Okay, that's really nice. It's good to talk about your teacher like that. It's really nice. You see, this is what we mean by inspiring an inspiring teacher, a teacher who has a lifelong impact on you. Look at how this professor is mentioned among his former students here. Well, let me just move on, please. I think we are extending the session, but it's fine. It's fine. All right. Where there is a will, there is a way. I fully agree with you. That's true. The attitude of the teacher also influences the attitude's achievement. Absolutely. I'll come to that, Natalie. There is a whole point I have to open up in this regard. Thank you very much, Abdin B. Marhaba. Thank you. Nawal says motivation is a powerful driving force behind good decisions, no matter what the degree of poverty is. I fully agree with you, and there are success stories that I know. There is a famous doctor, famous in Morocco. You see, he's a doctor, and he has also, been involved in elections, and you see, very famous. And he told me that when his baccalaureate results were announced, he went. You know what unshod means in English? Unshod, UNSHOD, or barefooted means with no, you know, with no shoes, barefooted. He went to the high school barefooted because he did not have what to wear. Absolutely. And he told me, viva voce, just like that. And he did not shy away from talking about. In fact, it's a source of pride for him. Why should you paint a lurid picture of something that does not exist? Okay. But this inspiration, this motivation can do miracles, as I keep telling my students. See Mohammed bin Nafi, Mr. Nafi, by far. Yeah, I talked. I think I read that. Okay. Professor Moose movement. Yes. Okay. Iman Imanu. Okay. Thank you, Natalie, for confirming this. Hello, Professor. I hope you're doing well. Could you please tell me about the steps of research methodology in research proposal? I will, Iman Imanu, but the only condition, if you accept, please, is to leave this question until the end, because we are discussing, a number of points that have attracted, our friends' interest here, and I don't want to interrupt this. So I will talk about that. That's for sure, but probably until the end of this. You see, of these points that we are discussing. Just stay with us, Iman Imanu. Thank you for your joining this live session. Nafia, I share with you the same feelings. See, Mufnifi, all right, so we're still talking about their professor. Learner training remains a priority in today's modern world, characterized by AI over-reliance. That's true. There needs to be a lot of sensitization and training. That's true. That's true. Nawal shows agreement on the fact that teachers can never be replaced. Okay, see Muhammad Al-Zaraq and get you to learn example strategy. Yeah, I think that you said something before. Learner training. Yeah, so it's a continuation of what you said about the about learner training. That's true, in order to avoid all sorts of misuses of technology. All right. Now that we have discussed this, we have gone a little bit far afield, but that's for a good reason. And I think that does not depart in radical respects from the topic of motivation, because on occasions, the word motivation, comes to the fore. All right. So let me talk about the first characteristic a 21st century teacher has to display in order for students' motivation to be enhanced, to be to be boosted. All right, and in order for students to become more and more, motivated to engage in the learning activity. Now, this characteristic is good leadership. What is good leadership? This brings us to the classical distinction between what a leader is and what a boss is. If you are a leader, it means what? It means you do not just direct students to do the work. It means you need to do it yourself. And this can be seen both in the tasks. There are, for example, some questions that the teacher should venture into answering, and to give them a model. Not a model of the answer, but a model of someone who has managed to answer a question. But also, specifically, the teacher's behavior, teacher's engagement will make students feel more secure, and it will kindle their sense of passion, because the teacher, is giving, is a model, is an example. For example, why is it that sometimes we blame students on coming late to class at a time when, on many occasions during the semester, the teacher comes later than the students? how would you like, what do you want the students, for example, to, how would you want the students to take you as a model when most of the sessions you arrive maybe 15 to 20 minutes late, but when you arrive on time, you blame students on arriving late. That's not good. Okay. So this is one thing. Commitment is also an aspect of leadership, dedication to your work. When you show that you love what you do, when you show that you love what you do, when you are dedicated, okay, when you show that you did your homework, all right, when you do not absent so often. So all these, show your leadership. And of course, leadership is also shown in doing the teaching, not starting sentences with when I was in Europe, when I was in the States, when I was in that country, when I was, whoa, why are you telling those stories? You see? So maybe you need to spend that time maybe talking about, things that will be to the benefit of students. Okay? Work ethics. When students see the teacher, showing work ethics, like punctuality, like respect, like, dress code is also important. You see, you cannot come, in wearing the clothes that you want, the clothes that you would wear when you are, when you live your private life, for example, or no, the institution has to be respected, and people need to be dressed in a specific way. In a specific way means in a way that is acceptable, in a way that is, not against the dress code, that is known internationally, not just locally. Okay, so this is the thing, and of course, a good leader, a good teacher slash leader is one that builds a good rapport with the student. What does this mean? This means that the teacher has to show that he or she respects the student in front of him or her. Frowning to the student or frowning at the student all the time will not make of you a leader, will make of you someone who is an authoritarian, actually, you see, in your approach. Frowning all the time, sometimes shouting all the time to students, shouting to the students is not a good thing. There are far more ways you can solve a problem than mere shouting. You see, so you have to show to the student that you are there because you have a position of responsibility, and that you are there primarily to help the student, you see, learn the contents that he is supposed to learn, and so forth. So these are some of the instances that we can, term, okay, leadership skills. Okay. Number two, this is very important again. Whatever we teach, it is always a good idea to make the contents interesting. How can we make a content interesting? By showing its relevance in the real world, by pointing to the fact that this will be needed, for example, in the future, for example, for a job, by showing that, for example, so many students were asking me at the level of S1, sir, why do we teach us phonetic transcription? Why do we need it? And my answer is usually, you have a course in S4 called Introduction to Linguistics, and you may go to the branch of linguistics, you may opt for linguistics later on. And even if you opt for literature or cultural studies, you might become a teacher one day. So you will always need this. So it's good to show to them that has meaning. The worst that can happen is that students try to learn, some content to which they don't see any, real life, relevance, just like that. Okay. So real world applications are always a good, way of showing the relevance of the content. And of course, activities need to spring from the student, or to relate to the student's personal interest. I think one of our friends Here was it C? It was Gary, I guess. See Gary, who told us about the fact that he gave tasks in the form of projects. This is just amazing because especially when you negotiate, not impose, you negotiate the project that you will work on, and the students will do an amazing job when you are giving them this autonomy, and when they find that the tasks that they are in the course of performing or doing or carrying out of a considerable amount of interest. Okay. Now, before I read the comments again, I have another point to mention. This has to do with the development of critical thinking. Critical thinking will encourage students to feel that they are not passive, because when we give the impression to the learner that they are there as passive entities waiting for knowledge to be poured in their heads, and when they ask you a question, why is it like, don't say it's like that. Have the courage of saying, I don't know, let's check, let's discover together. There's no problem with that. But saying it's just like that, and then you leave, it's like brooming, you see, dust under the mat, as they say in English, okay? So that's not a good thing. That's not fostering critical thinking at all. So the teacher has to get rid of this mindset relating to what Paulo Freire calls the banking concept of education. You see, it's banking means you deposit knowledge in the head and then they go home. Another day, the exam, they will just bring up or quote unquote, I'm sorry, using this to regurgitate, the contents so that they will be successful. No, it's good to encourage. Even this can be reflected also in exam questions. In exam questions, it's not a good thing to give them questions that are that test just their declarative knowledge. No, it's not like questions when in this on this date on this day, yeah, and who is the blah blah blah. No, it's this. One has to avoid these questions. One has to probably provide activities that are stimulating to the thinking of the learner. This, because when you do it this way, you encourage learners to ask questions. You are doing a favor to them, actually, because you are helping them out of a situation where they are always on the defensive. You see, you are helping them, instigate or install, their sense of autonomy, and of course, their self-esteem. And this is really nice because even at home, you see, at home with children, when parents, for example, prevent the child from asking a question. You are young. You don't need to ask this question. You don't ever ask me this question. The child grows up, against or unable to take this decision of asking questions. So by instituting or by introducing critical thinking skills, the students are actually emancipated from a state in which they are just passive learners into a state where they feel responsible for their learning, and where they are, they become active learners. Okay. Also, another point in this regard, there are related points, of course. The teacher should not set expectations that are too high, inachievable tasks. Why would you do that? The teacher is not there to trick students. The teacher is not there to show that he is, I don't know, the god of knowledge, quote unquote. You see? So give tasks that are manageable. If you feel that the task is not manageable, don't do that. I'm talking about tasks and also exams. On the day of the exam, it's logically, normally, ethically, one has to ask questions that have been covered in class, not questions that, unless, for example, you assign them a book and you say that I will have a question from this book. This will depend, of course, on the subject. But generally, if the students, not one student, because one student or two or three may not be attending and they will be surprised. I'm talking about the fact that the whole, group complains about the fact that they have a question. I don't think this happens so often. This rarely happens. See, but one has to avoid this. Okay, and because when we give students, look at this, please. When we give students tasks that they can manage, you see, what happens? It means that they will do it successfully or relatively successfully. And when they do it relatively successfully, the teacher has to comment in positive ways. Ladies and gentlemen, you can never imagine, and I tried this with my students, you can never imagine how much learning, how high the motivation will be, and when students, okay, experience success through success. It means what? It means, they may, perform a task at 60%. Now I am the teacher. I have two ways of handling this state of affairs. Shall I say, because this is one approach is to say, hey, some parents, by the way, do that. See, what happens in the family happens also in the classroom. Shall I say, well, you are lazy? 60 is equal 60%. No, that's not, this is not good. 60% is nothing. You see? So you are lazy, you did not do much work, etc. Now, another approach is to say, wow, this is just amazing. 60% is just good for a first task. I am sure that in your next tasks you will have 70% and then. Imagine the impact the student will have when it comes to things like this. And when you tell a student, as a way of encouraging him or her, that you are proud of him or her because they did this task in this way, and that all that you need perhaps is to listen to follow these tricks to make it, these tips to make it better. The two students who were told different things, or will evolve in different ways. You can't imagine the positive, the very positive, and the very negative impact these different ways of handling, of giving feedback, or reacting to students' tasks can be. So, bottom line here, students always need to experience success through success. If they don't taste success, they may not work for it, and they will lose motivation midway. And this is not really good. The whole project will be a fiasco. Okay, it's good to recognize effort. It's good to recognize to recognize effort. You see, it's good to recognize effort. There is a difference again. Let me give you this example. There's a difference again between having something, a task. I tore this apart. Between having a task here and say, sure, the teacher sometimes throws it to the student like this. اسمح لي. It's not because the student made mistakes that he deserves to be addressed this way. This gesture and the frowning and will have nefarious consequences. On sometimes it's lifelong. It will never be forgotten. But if someone has mistakes, so look for first tasks, it may be full of mistakes. But you go and say, well, you have made an attempt. This is good. It's good to recognize effort. There is some effort involved there. You see. But next time, please, you need to, avoid this, avoid this, avoid this. And of course, if you tell him him or her in a nice way, surely the mistake will not recur again. Or if it recurs, maybe it will not recur in the third or fourth or fifth task. It depends on how many tasks you assign in the semester. Is that fine? So success needs to be experienced through success. Now, let me move on. Related to this as well. Related to this is the concept of feedback. Feedback can do miracles. Learning through feedback, learning through adequate feedback, and by the way, a whole body of research has been conducted on feedback, including a thesis that I supervised at the level of the doctorate. Feedback can kindle students' motivation. Appropriate feedback can help to a large extent. So, no feedback during the semester. unlikely learning to take place. The learning is unlikely. Good learning, at least, is unlikely. See? So we have to be careful. We have to give constant feedback. Feedback can take the form of what? Feedback should be constructive, by the way. Here is a detail that I did some class observations with some friends a long time ago, and we have to talk about this because sometimes we don't feel it. Sometimes in a classroom, you ask a question. For example, what is the simple past of the verb to broadcast? And a number of students raise their hands, and one of them says broadcasted. شوفوا معايا. The worst gesture ever. I don't know if you have experienced this as students before, but this is not good. It's when you hear broadcasted, for example, which is wrong, of course, and you give the student a cold shoulder. That is to say, you turn your back, or you frown, or I don't know, or you just say, well, or you can tell him that this is rubbish. هالقضية ديال rubbish should not be told to students. كيفاش rubbish? Until when you were a student, you were not producing rubbish. You were born like that? No. You see? So it's not a good idea to ask. To ignore students. This is not good at all. Never ever ignore students, especially when they give you an answer in class. Never ever do that because the students have a level of self-esteem, and they are there among their friends, among their classmates. They don't want to be made fun of. So it's good to value. You will lose nothing. There are ways for, you see, telling the student that you are wrong. Well, someone who says broadcasted, I can transform this into a funny situation where we can laugh together. And I say, you may have forgotten about it, or okay, but funny situation does not mean that it should be a funny situation in such a way that it will provoke, blackmails and maybe people will poke fun at him. No, or her. No, if the teacher maybe is experienced enough to find a way of say that's of saving face. That's a term I borrowed from pragmatics. We have to save the face. We have to save face for some students, for students in general. So ignorance, switching off when he gives you an answer. The worst that can happen is when you give an answer and you don't get anything back from the teacher. Or if you give anything back from the teacher, it's something that is destructive. What motivation are you going to have here? And by the way, this is something that now psychologists continue to advise parents. Psychologists continue to advise parents to encourage students, to encourage their sons and daughters. Even if they make a mistake, say, well, you just value what they did. And then if you have a criticism to level to the student or to the son or the daughter, you see, you do it in a way that will save their face, because that's very important. Face saving, feedback should be face saving. It should become, it should be varied. Sometimes it comes in the form of prompts, like say, what? That's a prompt. Or recasts like broadcasted. That's a recast because you recast, and of course the written feedback should be in a way that the student will understand. Okay, I usually I'm not saying that mine is the best approach, but in composition specifically, when I give back the papers to the students, I always take that 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, and I ask them to talk to each other and to exchange papers and let me know that you have, and I tell them, let me know that you have understand. Let me make sure you have understand my feedback. That again is, can boost their self confidence, of course, and they will learn from their mistakes. Okay. Now, another point I'm left with two, or there may be more. These are the ones that I thought of. Okay, the relation between the teacher and the student. Should it be, a relation of distance? Yes, of course. Of course, chacun dans sa place for obvious reasons, without implying inferiority or superiority. Not at all. These are just rules. Okay. Uh, anyway, ideally, a teacher has to have this fatherly or motherly, if she's a female, feelings towards his students. It's like their son or their daughter. You care for them, you care for their future, you advise them as much as you can. You probably take time to handle, for example, their mistakes and to analyze them and to talk to them. And I think this is what needs. But you have to show this. You have to show that you care about their future, that you care about their learning, and that you will be very happy when they achieve something. Here, you should not shy away as a teacher from bringing them examples from the success stories before. For example, I have, for example, at high school, you can say that I taught a student who is now doing his master's studies or in doctor's studies, or is a teacher already. This can help them, of course, feel that you care for them. But when you give this impression that you are there, study, that's I'm translating it from Arabic, study or don't study, it's not my business. If you give this, you may not say it explicitly, but when you show it in your behavior and in the way you handle students in general, that's not a good thing. That's not going to inspire students at all. Okay, an educator should, look at students as though they were his or her sons and daughters. That is to say, they care for the future, they care for their success, they care for they care about their achievements, care about, not care for, care about their achievements, care about their success, etc. Okay. And now I would like to move to the point mentioned by Mr. Mohammed Gareh. And I liked his experience with the project-based tasks. These are really nice. And of course, this is one way of making learning interactive. It's different. It's different whether we like it or not. It's different. So just imagine we have two groups of students. One group receives instruction in the form of, having the teacher impart knowledge and the students receive it, and then they go home in order to reproduce this knowledge later on. Number one, this way will make students very passive, and they will lose self-esteem, and they will always see themselves as inferior, and they are there to receive knowledge. But if you make it interactive, like project-based learning. A long time ago, they were talking about dialogue journals, okay? And the group work, peer correction, things that they find interesting, tasks that gives them the opportunity to interact are actually tasks that will inspire them, tasks that will, make them motivated and will make their learning experience a real pleasure. Okay. Connected to this is the idea of autonomy, for example, because in a project-based learning, you are also fostering students' autonomy. And when student works autonomously, of course, especially if they are given tasks that they see, that they see meaningful and that they see reflect their identity, their social identity, for example, they will do that far better than a task that they feel is imposed on them, and the choice of the topic is imposed on them, and preventing them from opportunities of group work, for example, or peer correction, for example, projects, preventing them from these techniques will perpetuate their belief that they are passive rather than active individuals. Okay, and this is what I have. These are the points that I wanted to cover with you today. Let me go back, to the comments that we have here. I don't know where I stopped exactly. We have a wealth of comments here. We have Si Mustafa. I think yeah, Si Mustafa Walef. I saw that you wrote something. Si Mustafa Walef. I agree with you. The role of teacher will never be replaced. So I think I read this before. Learner training. I read it. Nawal's comment. I read it. Mr. Zarq's comment, barefoot, thank you. All right. Si Mustafa Walef says, thank you, sir, for the brilliant ideas. Technology is very important, but I suggest the use of a variety of ed tech tools, education tools like Kahoot, Quizlet, Google Classroom, among others. That's for sure. Why? Because when you use these, especially Google Classroom, with which I am most familiar, you have this opportunity to control students and to track them and to see whether they have done the work in the required amount of time, or you have all sorts of settings there that can help you look at the student's activity more clearly. See, Mustafa Morshid has retracted 2 or 3 messages, God knows why. See, Mohammed, so very true. I had this type of teacher when I was in Florida, when I was in London. Well, I remember at high school they were telling us these stories. Some of them, and not all of them, of course, but some of them, have this. It's good, I mean, to share with students, but not to take, the whole session just to tell your stories. you know. See, Mustafa, TTT should be minimum. TTT means, for those of you who don't know, TTT means teacher talking time. Okay, should be minimized, and STT means student talking time should be maximized. That's true. That's true, especially in order to help students, because through expressing it just in second language acquisition, when you have more STT than TTT, then of course there is a likelihood for language development to take place more rapidly and more effectively. Teacher acting as a guide, facilitator, and learner as somebody who is engaged in the class discussion. That's true. That's true. That's true. I rarely give presentations, but when I do, I ask the students to deliver a presentation in the minimal amount of time possible. And of course, I give them the opportunity. I usually comment on not only on the content, but also on the way they delivered, and the way they communicated their ideas. Sometimes I even make comments on the gestures, on eye contact, and so forth. That's fine. All right. Again, a classroom that is based, exclusively on presentations. There is a question mark. Imagine a whole session you have a presentation. So, on the assumption that the teacher is a facilitator, no, I think it's not a good way. Personal, again, that's personal. Okay, maybe a presentation. Yes, it's one way of giving the opportunity to the student to talk, but minimize that. Of course, there are important benefits for this fact of allowing students to talk, to express themselves in public. That's for some, that's their first experience in public speaking, assuming that the students are the public, of course. You see, but this should not squat the whole session. All right. Natalie says you are a concrete example. Thank you, Natalie. Barakallahu fik. Thank you so much. The use of interactive tasks using a technique tool. That's true, Si Mustafa. I have read the comment relating to the example that you gave. Sinafia, for me, I think there is a huge difference between teaching and lecturing in Moroccan EFL classrooms in middle and high schools. Teaching should be adopted, while university lecturing works best. Again, this will depend, Sinafia, on the course, on the subject. In a language course, I don't think that the mere lecturing will have the required benefits. I don't think so. No, honestly, I am skeptical about this. Maybe when it comes to content-based courses, yes. Okay, nice. These are projects. Mustafa, I talked about that. The teacher can be a facilitator. I fully agree. That's true. Si Mustafa says teacher's personality also plays a great role. We used to love you, dear professor, and so we were highly motivated to attend your classes. Barakallahu fik, Si Mustafa. Thank you so much. By the way, Si Mustafa was was my master's student at Mohammed V University way back in 2011. Okay, it's a long time ago. That's really nice. I'm very happy to see him bringing his thesis to a close. Now he's just waiting defense, just like Sibu Knifi. Okay. So Natalie says, knowing the student can also help the professor develop lessons that are more meaningful and more engaging. Of course, this brings us to another issue that we may discuss in another live session. There needs to be some needs analysis, of course, a priori, and some contrastive analysis a priori. We have just talked about this. I've just talked about it in my master students. But it's good to have a placement test first, placement test, and maybe the analysis of the students' needs, students' analysis of the situation, etc., so that you can engineer your classes and your sessions in the best way possible, because there is a difference between having a class of 40 or 50 students, for example, who are homogeneous, that is to say they have roughly the same level, and of course having a class where some of them complain that you are oversimplifying and the others say that you are advanced. Okay, good. Mr. Murshid. Okay, so that's a reply to Si Murshid. Si Mustafa says helping students to learn and using a variety of engaging communicative activities such as role plays, interviews, debates. Wow, that's interesting. Yes, and listening and video watching, etc. Yes, that's one way of bringing them. It's one way of simulating real life situations. It's like bringing them out of the confines of the classroom, out of the premises of the institution, because what is dialogue? It's one way of mimicking a natural dialogue. So this can help them. When we talk about language, this can help them, of course, achieve a good level in their a good competence, a high level of linguistic competence. We require the language in a very good way. But this can also be applied to content courses, because via discussion, ideas emerge and concepts are understood better and so forth. All right. Okay, so Mustafa replying to Sibu. Okay, yes, true professor fosters motivation by recognizing students' efforts is very important, of course. Of course. Looking for the minimum and rejoice at the opportunity that you have the opportunity for blaming a student for being lazy. No, that's not going to work. Who among the students does not make mistakes? Hardly any. Okay, so being that hard when you give feedback to the student is not it may have the reverse effect. Okay, so always opt for one way of saying, well, this is good. Talk about positive things first, and then you say you might want to improve this. But insulting the student and saying you did not do work, you were not worth it. I heard stories of students who were told that your place is not here. Your place is not here. Your place is, I don't know, they give them jobs, so with all respect to all the jobs, but they give them, jobs with the intention of making them angry, or I don't know the reason why they say that. But nobody is born knowledgeable. Of course, we all went through stages, This is evolutionary. This is this is how humans develop. Nobody is born knowledgeable of everything. Nobody is born knowledgeable at all, except perhaps with a language acquisition device, if you follow Chomsky's framework, Chomsky's way of looking at things. Anyway, Sinafia, this year I teach classes of 39 to 48 graders in a single class. That's very challenging, of course. The problem is that whenever I instruct them to prepare role plays, for example, many of them don't work on it. These are one of the challenges. Of course, at the level of high school, you have this further task of trying to find a way of making it interesting. One way, perhaps, of doing this is that you don't impose the pairs or the groups. You ask the students to move in the classroom to the people they are more likely to form a good group with. That's probably one way of doing this. You can also encourage them by some pluses, maybe on the next exam, there are a variety of techniques that one can adopt to, make these tasks successful. Displaying enthusiasm inspires curiosity and engagement. Absolutely, absolutely. When you are enthusiastic as a teacher, of course, students will follow suit in being enthusiastic. Thank you so much, dear Mustafa. So that's the exchange. See, Mustafa, yes, Mustafa Moshi is summative and formative assessment. That's true because if you wait until the end and then you give students exam questions to answer, that's not good. So quizzes in the form of probably homeworks or in class activities, when you diversify, it's better. This will, of course, make the students more involved with you, and especially when they experience success, even if the subject is hard, but when they experience success in first quiz, second quiz, you value what they did and you say, well, it's good, but you need to, to improve these things. They find out or they discover that their way to a very good grade towards the end is highly possible. So it's very possible. It's highly likely for them to get a good grade towards the end. But if you do not, administer quizzes during the semester, we don't do any evaluation. There are students who don't know how the format of the exam question, the exam format. They don't know until they are surprised by, some of them don't know if they want, if they are supposed to write in the form of an essay or in the form of a paragraph. My belief is that teachers need to tell their students ahead of time that they should expect, a variety of essay questions or a short essay or a long essay or a series of paragraphs or practice exercises. All right. Nice. Si Mohammed Zarq, university students are responsible for more than 80% of their understanding as autonomous learners. This is contingent on receiving sufficient guidance, references, and yes, that's true because at the university, the spoon feeding, a spoon feeding pedagogy may not work for the simple reason that students themselves will say, well, we are no longer high school or junior high school students. And therefore, we need to be given enough space, enough autonomy, and the teacher has to find a way of granting this space of autonomy to students. I think activities like the ones Sid Karih talked about are excellent activities. Activities like Si Mustafa Morshid and Si Mustafa Walaf, the two Mustafas you see have talked about, are equally relevant in this regard. What is the best way to encourage participants? So Natalie says, what is the best way to encourage participation among students who really ask questions or initiate interaction? What is the best way to encourage participation among students who rarely ask? Yeah, well, there are a variety of techniques, of course, that the teacher has to. So sometimes there are little things that you do. I'm not saying that this is a solution, but there is a difference between using the student's name. Just the fact of using student's name, it will make him perhaps participate. It will help him understand that the environment is secure and he will not be on the defensive, and this can fill him with some self-esteem. Again, the student who rarely interacts in the classroom should be encouraged by valuing, I mean, giving value to what he says, even if he may say things that are not really good, but it's good. It's the worst that can happen is when the student starts talking, maybe makes mistake, one mistake, two mistakes, and the teacher interrupts him. That interruptions, they're not really good. You listen to the student for as long as he or she talks. Take it easy. Okay, when he finishes, you react. You react in such a way as to say, well, this is very good. You did it nicely. I am happy that you express yourself, to recognize the effort. And then you say, but next time it's better to say this, to say this, to say this. Look how I'm saying this. But if you interact, say, what are you saying is nonsense. اسمح لي. That student will never talk again. Natalie, the student will never talk again in the class. Well, and some students will be forced to miss sessions, to get absent altogether. But that's a very good question from you, Natalie. That's true. Faiza says the professor should encourage students to express their opinions. That's true. That's true. It's all about this. Express their opinions and ask questions and feel free. That gives them a sense of self-esteem and a sense of, what do we call that? Agency. It gives them agency as well to, you know, to make them feel that they are important and they are as important as are others and as important as also as the teacher, whether we like it or not. The students and the teacher are equally important. بغينا ولا كرهنا. By equally important, it means that the student has his or her rights and obligations. The teacher has his or her obligations. So they are equal in this regard. It's not the case, for example, that the teacher has rights but no obligations. It is in this sense that students and teachers are equal. Okay. All right. Sisaid says eco-correction is the best method in this case. Eco-correction by you mean a recast? Yeah, that can be good. That can be good, and research has shown that recasts can have effects on uptake and on the internalization of structure, on the acquisition of a given structure. This has received a lot of, especially by Ranta and by, there is someone called Leicester, Leicester, very famous in corrective feedback. All right, thank you. Simadi Bini says, let me tell you, dear professor, that it happened last week when a professor frowned at me when I made a mistake. I thought at that idea you told us about allowing students to make mistakes. Well, that may be a style. So it can be a style. It can be that the teacher did not intend, to harm you that way. But it's really harmful to just frown or to give the student a cold shoulder or to decide never to give him the opportunity to talk. That's not good. I believe it's a mistake. Okay, good. Technical Soldex says a professor may also transform what is considered ungrammatical into acknowledging that the student is actively learning and applying underlying mechanisms. That's very good. You well said, Mr. Technical Soldex. Very good, especially if you adopt, there is what we call the pedagogy of the error, pédagogie al-khata, la pédagogie de l'erreur. Well, famous. And this is rooted in the assumption that errors are reflections of active learning. Errors show that sometimes, on many occasions, show that, the student is not just repeating parrot fashion, like a parrot, no? Okay, so I agree with you, 100%. Si Mohammed, totally agree with you, dear professor. Face-saving strategies, yeah, that's true. Face-saving strategies, whatever there is, one has to have enough tact, it has to be tactful enough to express himself in a way that gives the student the impression that what he receives is constructive rather than destructive, criticism or feedback or whatever. Okay, so relationship, good rapport, framed in ethics and principles. That's true. Of course, Sir Mohammed Zarq. Of course. Now there are limits. That's true, because sometimes there is this misunderstanding, and you end up having a student writing to you an email in Darija. That's not good. It's not that you are friendly with him, that you allow them to maybe to encroach upon your space like that. It's by addressing you. And I find it offensive to receive an email from a student asking me a question or making a request. Ironically, I receive emails. This rarely happened, actually, just to tell you. But شوفوا I receive emails from students, email written in Darija بحال chat ديك الحاجة يكتبها لك 7 etc. asking for what? Asking for a letter of recommendation. How can you recommend someone who does not even know how to express himself in English? You see, that's ironic. Nathalie Leblanc says encouragement. I don't know. Encouragement, is it? My God, I forgot this. Encouragement will enable students to achieve self-actualization, which is the highest level in the hierarchy. That's true. The Maslow needs that range from survival to self-actualization. That's true, because what you are actually doing as a teacher is to try to help the students achieve this highest goal, which is this highest need, which is self-actualization. Of course, this is inevitable when things are done the appropriate way. Si Mohammed is talking to Si Murshid. Okay. Si Mustafa, yes, such a type of teachers exists. Sibuknifi, that's an exchange with Sibuknifi. Group work, Natalie says, makes learners talking to each other and achieve goals. That's true. That's true. And also, it makes them relaxed, and psychologically, it's always good because sometimes, the teacher ignores the fact that they laugh, for example, or they discuss something in Arabic, and this is a topic we will come back to later on, inshallah. Thanks. Okay, that's fine. So here, individualized learning tasks can improve learners' language output as well as encouraging them become independent learner. That's absolutely right because when you individualize, you are actually assigning tasks that are to the liking of the student and the student will find meaningful and enjoyable. That's true. Ibn Zahir Nufisa. Marhaba Ibn Zahir Nafisa. I think this is the first time. Okay, okay. Yeah, okay. So she says, Ibn Zahir Nufisa, hello, my name is Isam. I am from Morocco. I'm living in Brazil. I want to take TOEFL. Can you give me advice? First, you are welcome to this live session and welcome to this channel. Now for the TOEFL test and for the other standardized tests, yeah, thank you for asking the question. It's very relevant. But let me tell you that in a test like TOEFL, it's what matters is not what you know. Sometimes you can be sorry. Sometimes you can be a good user of the language. You may master all the rules, you may be an outstanding writer, you may know all the vocabulary, but there is no guarantee that you will pass the TOEFL test. I am not saying this to frighten you, but to tell you that 50% of the TOEFL test is language knowledge, linguistic knowledge, but the other 50% is the use of strategies. Where will you find the strategies? They are taught to you. If you would like to involve in some autonomous learning, then there is a book, a big book for TOEFL, full of those activities. When you try to do those exercises over and over and over, then of course you develop those strategies. Sometimes if you are in a center where they teach you how to succeed in how to prepare, it's usually called TOEFL preparation. Then you will be taught explicit strategies that you can use on the day of the TOEFL exam. Okay. For example, in reading comprehension. Reading comprehension is a section that involves a lot of questions and a lot of text. Number of text, let me say 6, 7 text that you have to answer in 60 minutes, sometimes 55 minutes. I'm sorry. Okay. What does it mean? This means that I'm sorry, I don't know what it's a bit of an allergy, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so the advice is to get as much training as possible. The more you train before you take the TOEFL test, the higher your score. I am sure of that. So because I have had experience teaching the TOEFL course over the years in ancient times, as Si Mustafa Murshid has made it. But thank you very much for joining us. If you have other questions, we can answer them. Si Muhammad Zarq says, it can be argued that teaching experience between 6 to 10 years at high school serves enriching for PhD students for building a strong charisma and fostering a sense of professionalism. That's true. That's true because teaching at high school, provides you with a rich enough experience, and usually the professors who have had this experience at high school, when they make it for the position of professor at the university, usually they don't feel this gap. Okay, they continue in a very smooth way. And therefore, I would agree with you because anyway, any experience we have. And by the way, for the students who are not involved in high school, many of them now, fortunately, find opportunities of working part time, teaching a few classes at university. This equips them with good experience as well. So experience on the whole, is built over the years. That's for sure. I am now not the person I was 20 years ago. Okay. Si Mohammed Al-Faraq, yes, that's fine. I have to move to Jalal Zbirat. Ongoing constructive and helpful feedback is an asset which makes learners more motivated. I fully agree with you, Si Jalal. They do their best to keep on assessing their learning. That's true. That's true. That's true because sometimes on your own you may produce a sentence or a paragraph, but you don't know if it's correct or not, if it's the way you should do it or not. So when you are given feedback about it, about that paragraph, at least you are aware of the strong points that you have and the strong points that you need to improve, the points that you need to improve. That's for sure. All right. Okay, Mr. Jalal, thank you. I guess it's the first your first appearance with us here. Thank you very much for joining. So, Mustafa, I was working on a project years ago, and I used professors should, as Faiza did in one of the comments above. The professor told me, "Who are you to say we should? You are not doing a postdoctoral studies." Different people will react to different things. If you say the professor should, it's based on sure. If you base this just on your experience, you are in a position to say should, because you are a student and you have gone through the experience. You are not talking about something you don't know. That's number one. Number two, as a researcher, you have read the literature, and this word should is inspired from what you have read before. Okay, but go into this detail of should. Who are you to say? When you go to impose something on the teacher, yes, you may say, "Who are you to impose on me?" But again, in a questionnaire, why should I not? Just disagree with it. Teachers should. You say, "No, I disagree." That's fine. Okay. All right. See, Mustafa, look at. I missed something here. March, see, Mustafa, look at how Prof. Amros reacted to professors should. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Yes, true. The teacher should react to students' error in a way that encourages them rather than. Yeah, that's true. And a should is very relevant. They should. It's not if you want to exercise your job in the best way possible, then you should do this. All right. Yeah. Sarah Mufki, the learner should be viewed as an individual by the teacher. By doing so, the learner feels the sense of recognition and belonging in the classroom. I fully agree with you. Sarah is also a specialist in motivation. She is conducting a study on motivation, and she is doing well, especially that she is adopting one of the most recent frameworks by Zoltan Dornier. Okay, thank you, Sarah, for your contribution. Nathalie Leblanc, students are, as you can see, I have an eye that wells up tears because of an allergy that I continue to suffer from. So I apologize. All right. Natalie, students are more motivated, better behaved, and do better academically when teachers provide high level of support. That's for sure. Support can be at different levels, of course. Uh, Sometimes it happens that students can seek advice because they are working on a thesis, and when the student comes to you asking a question, is it relevant to say, "Well, it's not my business"? You know, go and do your work and don't ask me. No, you have to really take the student's request seriously because you once were a student. So where is the difference? We are not born. Nobody is born teacher. You see. So it's good to be responsive and to help as much as possible, the students who request this, okay, who make different types of requests, as long as you can help, of course, and as long as it's done in a polite way and in a face-saving way, all right. Okay. CSAID skills for the TOEFL IBT test, reading and writing. Yeah, that's a good reference. Speaking and writing strategies. There are a number of books actually. So so our friend here can look for these books and try to work on them as much as possible. I insist, I underline this as much as much as possible. I will probably hold a live session on this specific point. There are a number of topics that can be addressed. So as you can see, there is this tendency of moving away from very specific topics like phonological processes and distinctive features. But if there is a request from students, I would be glad to go back to syntax and phonology, etc. But it's good also to discuss these, ideas in broad terms, these general topics, because there will be students here who will, maybe what we have said here can be the object of an exam, an entrance exam for teachers. You never know. وما يدريك, right? وما يدريك. You never know. Okay, nice. Mohammed Zraq, see Mohammed Zraq, portfolios accompanied by reflection is one of the fostering autonomous learning. Absolutely, absolutely. Student-centered approach in self-regulated learning. Perfect. Yet it is difficult to adopt as it requires training and monitoring. That's true. That's true. It's better for a teacher to read about how to go about conducting this and how to make these tasks, okay, practical and achievable, of course. Thank you, Said, for helping our friend here. All right. See Mohammed Zraq, portfolios. I read this. And then I go to Natalie now again, says, for many learners, especially those from the classroom, is their only context of learning. Opportunities for social interaction may not be possible. It may not be possible, yes, but we can create what looks like a crude, approximation of a naturalistic environment. I think that this is manageable through role play, through maybe I don't know, classroom discussions, focus groups. Sometimes you may have these things. A teacher can innovate in this regard. Jalal, marhaba si Jalal. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you and welcome to the channel, because I see you make your first appearance now. Asma, ahlan Asma. So yeah, Asma always comes to clap and to send a few flowers. So diplôme, okay. Diplôme, but like these are flowers, okay. Thank you so much, Asma. Thank you. Thank you, Si Said. Barakallahu feek. Si Mustafa, I have a friend who wrote a research paper and she forgot to add prof in the front of her supervisor's name in the cover. When he saw the paper, he told her to go and change the cover. Well, honestly, the student should not forget this. Out of respect to the professor, she should look at the cover. But if it happens because she is under stress or she has to meet the deadline, she really needs to apologize to this professor and then promise that she will give him a version or her a version where, she has the whole thing, in place. Okay? So I think this is, these things so happen. But honestly, I would feel that if it is done correctly, it's disrespect. Correctly, I'm sorry. If it's done, with intention, it's not good. If it's just an omission because of pressure, then an apology would suffice. That's how I would go about. An apology would suffice with the promise that she needs to include prof. After all, just imagine the professor does not get angry and that she gets away with this, which makes this document for a doctor. People may not be, may not appreciate looking at the cover where there is no title for the professor. All right. So thank you, Si Mustafa. Thank you, See Said, barakallahu fik. Thank you. Living in a coastal city is always, connected to developing forms of allergy for some people like me. Okay. Sarah says, thank you, the professor. Though the real specialist here is you, and we are honored to be your friends. Barakallahu fik, Sarah. Thank you for the good word. Lalechtik, thank you so much. So this is a very good word in my favor from a very good student. Thank you so much. Natalie, does the correction assist language learning? Of course, to a large extent. A correction, I mean, the correction when you correct the task, can you give it? Yeah, of course. How can he or she develop? How can a student develop? Okay, you know, it's really, it's necessary. We're talking about the importance of corrective feedback. Thank you, Barakallahu Mustafa. Thank you so much. Is Imanu still with us here? Because she asked the question and I requested that she keeps it until the end. So if she is here, the floor is yours. Paste your question. I don't know what the question was. Please paste it so I can talk about it, and then we will call it. Or if there are questions, I can still handle it. Handle more questions, of course. Natalie says, teaching is more about inspiration than information, and great professors do their best to make their lessons. Yeah, that's true. Like my lectures, I don't know, but what you said before, I confirm. Whether I fall within the category, I'm doing my best. Hopefully, I can achieve a little of what you are saying. But thank you very much, Natalie, for your nice word. By the way, Prof. Amros's guidance should be acknowledged. No, no, not to that point. No, not to that point. It's as long as there is interaction and feedback from you, this is good. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Baraklofik. So I guess Imanu is not with us here because I remember her name, but I don't remember her question. And if she is not here, then she can ask the question probably later on. Kingdom of Animals, about your allergy, sir. Are you taking any meds, if you don't mind? No, this is, I used to take some, but, they had consequences on the digestive system and so forth. And now these come on occasions. For example, I think I impute this to maybe the humid weather these days, but it goes and comes. It's not really permanent. So I can adapt to it without problems. Thank you very much, Kingdom of Animals. Really, thank you for your concern. Barakallahu fik. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. It looks like our friend is not here who asked, but maybe I can come online anytime tomorrow or after tomorrow. I will let you know. And then we will have the opportunity to discuss different topics, different issues again. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best and have a good rest of the night and have a good rest of this holy month. Thank you and have a nice time. Bye bye.